Alright, this is John Colo with growingyourgreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, coming at you from a beautiful morning here in my garden before it gets too hot. I love this plant. This plant grew from seed in my garden. This is actually a hybrid, I would say dinosaur kale / tree collared plant. It is just thriving in the sun. 100+ degrees, man. I love this plant. Anyways, it's got a few whiteflies. In this episode, we're going to be answering your guys' questions. I have nearly 1 million followers, so if you're not already subscribed to me, hey, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right down below, and make sure you click the little bell to get notified as my new videos come out, and help me get to 1 million subscribers, which is totally insane. Anyways, because I have so many of you guys following me, I can't answer every single question, and actually don't answer questions that you may post underneath videos. But I do have a way you can ask me a question that may appear in next month's Q&A. If you click down below, you could go to my community tab, and I have an area there where you can post your question that may appear in next month's Q&A. Anyways, on with this month's questions. The first question is from Sampozik333. My question relates to the longevity spinach. I have 3 cuttings in a 10-gallon grow bag that are growing great, but wondering if they are going to outgrow that or be crowding each other out. They are all about 1 foot long now. Thanks. I do enjoy the taste of it. Been a big fan of your channel for about 6 years. Has helped me grow personally and re-inspired me to grow my own food. I live in zone 6A. All right, so longevity spinach. So I actually have plant longevity spinach right in front of me, and I have them planted like 8-inch spacing. I have them growing tall up like my arch trellis right here, and currently they're about 2 feet tall each. So they're not super bushing out. There's a few kind of off growths on them, but they tend to kind of grow not really as a vine. You got to train them. They kind of just want to sprawl on the ground and cover the ground normally, like in the tropics, for example. So I think that in a 10-gallon grow bag, you have 3 cuttings, and you live in zone 6A. That's the other thing, because you could grow this outside in the summertime, but once it starts to get too cold, right? You don't want the longevity spinach getting below like 40. Like it doesn't, it could survive in between like 33 to 40, but it's just not happy. So once you start hitting 40 degrees, I'd say bring it inside. And I would say no, it doesn't need to outcrowd a 10-gallon grow bag. I would move it up maybe to like a 15-gallon, give you a little bit more space, but it's not really even necessary if you don't want to. However, I would recommend, putting some kind of like a, stakes, some bamboo stakes or some kind of cool trellis, maybe a tomato cage to kind of let them grow up. And of course, hopefully you'll be harvesting them, so you'll harvest all the leaves to eat, which you like the taste, which is great. I want to encourage people out there to kind of get to know and love the tastes of plants that are easy for you to grow, right? And we're so like stuck in our ways, like, oh, I love lettuce, but I don't love any other leafy greens. Like to me, that's half the fun of gardening is like this one, actually, you guys could see. This is a new one to me. I found this at a local nursery. It's Hwang Ngok. And this is like an Asian green. It's growing great here for me. And it has like a really cool flavor, like unique flavor. And like, I love growing new things. It makes life exciting. Variety is the spice of life. Anyways, so I would say basically grow it up, like with the tomato cage in that 10-gallon. And then you're going to be eating the leaves. And then the other thing you want to do is like, you want to basically use the tip cuttings, right? And then do new cuttings. And then start more 10-gallon pots or 15-gallon pots with that in there and have it go multiple places. Also, hand out cuttings to other friends that are gardeners so that they could grow it too and enjoy the benefits of longevity spinach. So yeah, you could grow it in some pretty tight places for sure. Next question is from Last Call Apostles. Best fruit to grow in Oklahoma climate? That's a good question. I think I've driven through Oklahoma once, but I have no idea, honestly, what grows there. But what I would say is you are in like, I think, zone 5 or 6 or I don't know, something pretty cold, man. Something I'm not used to. But what I would say is this. I want to say you want to check out your local extension office. So check out like Oklahoma State University, OSU, and find the extension office for the agriculture, and check out and find the master gardeners there and ask the master gardeners at the OSU, what fruit trees grow good in Oklahoma, because they likely have tested these out, may have a test demonstration garden that you can visit. The other thing I would ask is I would go to local farms and or farmers markets and ask the farmers there, hey, what are your best producing fruit trees that produce reliably, right? You could also visit other local gardening clubs or find local gardeners or walk around your neighborhood to see what trees are growing that are fruit trees that are growing successfully, and ask other people. You know, I think getting firsthand experience testimonials from people growing the fruit trees, and especially farmers, is a good indicator that they are going to perform well for you. However, I would not just go to the nursery and just buy fruit trees there and trust that they're going to do well. They sell a lot of fruit trees at the nurseries where I live, and those trees are just destined not to do well in this area. Now, the other thing that I would look into is, of course, because you have chill hours there, I would grow, fruit trees that I like. So, I mean, I know some of the fruit trees with chill hours that'll grow there. Number one, pawpaw trees, which is technically a tropical fruit, although it grows not in tropical areas. Links down below for my video on pawpaws. They'll grow across most of the country and handle a frost, and they taste like mango banana custard, and everybody should be growing those. You do need to baby the trees, however, when they are young. They should be shaded. They can't handle full sun until they are much larger. Of course, other fruit trees that I have that are my favorites that will grow there in Oklahoma are persimmons. So I think American persimmons will grow really well. I would personally do the Asian persimmons. I love some of the Asian persimmons, like the chocolate and coffee cake persimmons are my favorite. And then also I would grow jujubes. Jujubes, I think more people should be aware of jujubes. They're related to like an apple, but they're like 10 times better than an apple because they can dry on the tree if you're in the right climate, or you could take them off the tree and dry them. Then they could be considered a dried fruit, a storage crop to have during the winter time. Otherwise, you could just pick them fresh and eat them like apples, and actually they have a very sweet taste if you get a good cultivar. All right, next question is from Just in Cal 6817. I'm currently moving across states. I have lots of hot pepper plants in my raised bed. Would they survive being uprooted and shipped, or there a method to wrapping or cleaning the roots and placing them in water for the trip? 3-day drive. I also love what you do and love how endearing of a personality you have. Well, thank you. So, here's the thing, even at the end of the season, I try to dig up my pepper plants and then put them in pots and then just try to overwinter them in my greenhouse. And I mean, I haven't had that much luck doing that. So this is tough, man. I definitely wouldn't uproot it and ship it. If you uprooted it, and then it would just cost so much money to ship them, man. I don't know how big these are. I mean, if you bare rooted them, they're not gonna like it. I mean, they're not gonna like even being pulled up. I mean, if you did want to do anything and you had extra room in your U-Haul or when you're traveling, I would put them in the vehicle. I don't know, man. I think for me personally, it's hey, I would gift them to somebody locally, leave them to the new homeowners and to take care of them. I mean, pepper plants, when you're moving across states, they're annual plants anyways. It's not like some super rare genetics. You could just buy new seeds. You could start new plants. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would kind of leave them because I personally wouldn't think they're more hassle than they're worth. I know you've invested several months into them already and you want to get the fruits of your labor. But, I would just say, I don't know. I wouldn't even mess with it. To me, it just seems like way too much work, and you're probably going to have significant losses. Yeah, you may keep a couple alive, one or two. And yeah, you could uproot them and just put them in the U-Haul. I would keep them in dirt. I would not put them in water. And then just keep them. They'll be in dark for a couple days. They'll probably lose a lot of foliage, a lot of leaves. I'd probably trim them back a whole bunch. And then when you transplanted them in the new climate, in the new zone, they're going to go through transplant shock and then be set back more. Man, I would just spend the money and buy some, pepper plants that are already in pots, grown in a pot, and then just plant those into your new space once you get there. My personal opinion. That being said, I recently did buy 1-gallon moringa plants grown in pots that I literally put in my check-in luggage, and I literally taped all 4 pots together to stay at the bottom of my luggage and then put like a cardboard brace to kind of keep it down. And then I checked that in, and actually they came out all right. So stay tuned for my upcoming episode, or maybe I already aired it, on growing moringa in a pot. Okay, next question is from SFSF1212. When you're harvesting your greens or herbs, how much leaf damage is too much leaf damage? I'm fairly cautious about even eating mildly damaged looking plants from my small container garden. So what are some signs that a plant has been too badly damaged by disease or bugs to eat? And what are some signs of damage that are still okay to eat? Maybe you could show us examples of your garden of how you choose which leaves to harvest. That is a very good question, actually. So, you know, to me, how much is too damaged? Well, you know, here's the thing. We could just pull this tree collar thing aside. And like, if we go to this bottom leaf that's falling off, that's yellowing, this is too damaged. I mean, I don't know. It looks like there's some mold growth on there. It's like turning brown. It's drying. It disconnected from the plant easily. Let's see. Let's go more. Okay, here's one more top growth. Once again, this peels off easily. This is on its way out, guys. And I would definitely not eat this leaf. Let's see. Let's go to the top here. These leaves are particularly small this time of year because the plant's stressed out because it's in full sun. But like this leaf, you know, I mean, okay, maybe it doesn't even really look damaged. It just looks really small. But, you know, here's the thing, like leaf damage. You know, oh, so here's a good example. Here's like a big leaf. It actually has some webs on it, which I would probably say is maybe spider mites. And then it has a hole here. Like, to me, this is perfectly edible. Like, I don't know, I would not even fret about it. So I think here's the thing, like, we have to differentiate between the damage, right? If it has powdery mildew, right, we could eat powdery mildew. We're not going to get a powdery mildew infection, and we're not going to get all white over us. Plants and animals don't share diseases, luckily enough. But it's just not really appetizing. That being said, right, it depends. Like, your whole plant, you know, your kale plant, for whatever reason, gets white powdery mildew on it. Are you just not going to eat any of it? No, like, I'll harvest the leaves that otherwise look okay. I'll just blast it with water, blast off most of the powdery mildew, and then I'll put that in my pressure cooker, right? So it depends. Like, if the leaves are damaged with, like, bug holes, like knowingly bug holes with, like, no other damage. Like, I know, like, you know, cabbage worms have eaten a bunch of holes in my kale, for example, right? And I know it's only cabbage worms, or maybe even snails, right? And then I wash off the snail slime, or I wash it off really good, and it still's got all the holes. I'll totally eat it. Why? Because the bugs are doing you a favor. When they're munching into the plants, right, they're creating more nutrition for you to eat because the plant is defending itself. It's saying, something's eating me. I need to basically blow open this. I'm opening my cell walls, and now I'm basically releasing more anti-cancer fighting compounds, you know, into the leaf. You know, so like if it's like black city mold, you know, and you can't really wash it off, I kind of draw the line. It's just kind of funky, gross to me. I won't eat that. And it depends if I'm eating it raw or cooked or juiced or blended, right? If I'm cooking things, then I'm more apt to damage leaves that are more damaged. And once again, it really depends on what's invading it. Like if it's an insect, if I just, like this has white flies. Like, right, I could shake this plant. You'll probably see some white flies come off. Like, this does not even faze me. I'm like, okay, yeah, white flies or aphids, I just take and hose them off and still eat it. No big deal. Leaves in the thing, like from bugs, no big deal. Let's see, yeah. Like, I don't know. I think like, oh, and let me go ahead and, behind the camera is my longevity spinach. So let me go ahead and harvest a few leaves, because actually this is a good indicator. So like, for example, this leaf, right? Definitely, these plants are struggling because I planted them a little bit too late. I planted ones on the other side, like early in the season. The other side was planted late in the season. They're finally kind of getting healthy. But you can see this leaf has like a big, you know, brown spot where it got leaf burn. This whole yellow area is not doing too healthy. But this half of the leaf looks pretty good. So actually what I might do is I might just like tear the leaf in half. And you can't even see there's damage on this half, and I would totally eat this half, right? And like that was just damage from like just too much sun and the plant not being hardened off properly, and probably not as nutritious soil, and not being watered enough. But yeah, this leaf is fine. So I don't know, man. I think people like expect perfection in their garden. Like, you go to the grocery store, everything looks perfect. There's no bug holes. There's no white powdery mildew. There's no nothing on those leaves because it's been sprayed to hell, and like it's just artificial in some ways, right? I mean, it is natural, but it's artificial using chemical pesticides, and so I'm really accepting of bug holes and damage to some extent, right? And I think we need to, as people, like, before we had supermarkets, if we were in nature and we were starving, man, and there's only a kale plant with all these bug holes, we wouldn't care because we're starving. We're going to eat that stuff, right? And so I think it's I think it's good actually to, not be as critical. I mean, yes, of course, if something is rotting and looking bad and getting slimy, I'm definitely not eating it. But, I think we should all have some common sense that, like, hey, this looks good other than, like, that one half is yellow, and I would, like, if it's bug holes, I wouldn't even trip out about that. Or if it's, like, bugs on the plant, just wash them off, man. Dude, you're growing organically, and, like, let's not even worry about it. I mean, I've swallowed a couple aphids. I've probably swallowed whitefly eggs, and if I didn't spray it off enough, wash it. And then, of course, if you're cooking things usually kills most things on your plants anyways. If I'm eating them raw, then definitely I'm more careful. And, of course, when harvesting, if I'm harvesting to cook or for juicing, I'll harvest the outer large leaves. And if I'm harvesting for fresh salads or for just, like, picking and dipping in some, like, guacamole or hummus, I'll pick the nice tender young leaves in the middle. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I'd tell you. I think we all need to just be more tolerant of nature, right? And I mean, other animals in nature will eat things. I mean, there's animals that eat half-rotting carcasses, Luckily, I'm not one. I eat plants. But, I don't know. I think this whole society thing where we got money involved and we're trying to buy produce that looks perfect and eat apples without any spots and all this stuff. I mean, I think there's a song in the 80s where spraying all these fields and chopping down trees and crap. I don't know, it sucks. But yeah, don't mind some pest holes or some little, if it doesn't look perfect, it's still edible, especially if you grew it, and it's going to taste better and be more nutritious for you. All right. All right, next question from Empress Kadesh. Where do you get your seeds? I keep buying seeds from Amazon. They end up not germinating. Maybe I'm getting old seeds or something. All right, Empress Kadesh. The one thing I recommend is not to buy seeds on Amazon, because most of the things on Amazon, if they're not sold directly from the seller, basically the seller ships it to the Amazon warehouse. The Amazon warehouse, it just sits in the Amazon warehouse. Hopefully they're climate controlled for who knows how long. I mean, I've bought plenty of supplements and even other food items on Amazon. I get it, and it is expired. And some of these expiration dates on different products usually have like a 2-year expiration date. So you're telling me that that thing has been sitting in the Amazon warehouse for like 2 years before I bought it, and then it's expired. And unfortunately, like, Amazon doesn't like patrol like expiration dates. There should be expiration dates or when the seeds were packed, but a lot of companies are not following the proper rules and don't have, like, seeds when they're packed or for what season they're for. So that's why you need to go with a reputable seed company to buy your seeds. Yes, it will cost more money than Amazon. You won't have them in 2 days with the prime shipping or whatever, but you're going to get quality seeds. I mean, I think the first thing for seeds is always to search out local seed vendors in your area. I really want people to source regionally available seeds. Join a local garden club. Check out, community farm or, a community garden near you. Talk to other farmers and growers and see if you could get some of their seeds, because they save their seeds, hopefully, and they'll share their seeds, and those varieties are already going to do well, and they're super fresh, right? And they're regionally adapted for your local climate and area. That is super important. Plus, it can be very cheap and or inexpensive to get local seeds. That being said, if you do need to mail order seeds, there are several companies I trust. Of course, one of the biggest ones are rareseeds.com or Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. I visited their warehouse, linked down below. I've seen how they store their seeds, how they meticulously have, the lot numbers and the expiration dates of the seeds. After seeds get too old for them, they basically just donate them, every year. Seed packs, they donate like lots of seed packs to like organizations. Some of the organizations I've met that like, oh, we got donations of like all these seeds from Baker Creek at the end of the season. So it's like they rotate their seeds, which is very important, and they'll sell you fresh seeds. They also have a lot of cool rare varieties. Of course, if you want to have more organic seeds, because while Baker Creek is all heirloom seeds, they may not be certified organic, although I trust them. If you guys need certified organic seeds, I would trust a company like Johnny's Seeds or True Leaf Market. I like to purchase from Johnny's because they've been doing this for a long time. True Leaf is more of a new kind of player in the industry, but they're pretty legit too. So I think between those three seed companies, I think you'd be all set. So the next question is from Viva La Lisa. What are your tips on gardening and composting in an apartment? I'll be moving for Toronto soon for some time and would love to continue growing my own produce, but I don't yet have experience in city environment. I will have a small balcony. I could say I've been to Toronto, and a good part of the year there's snow and it's cold. So if your balcony is exposed, you ain't growing probably nothing out there in the wintertime. You're gonna take the winters off. On a balcony, depending on how much sun you get, I would grow small fruiting crops personally. I would probably mostly grow leafy greens and herbs out there in pots because you're limited to as to how many plants you can grow. Of course, I'd also be growing inside the apartment. And inside the apartment, honestly, the thing I would tell you, the most valuable crops to grow inside an apartment are, number one, sprouts, because you could grow them in jars. You don't need any space. You could be growing your own fresh food. And number two, I'd be growing microgreens, right? You could literally live on microgreens and sprouts, and they could take the place of full-size greens if you grow enough of them. So if you have a big rack set up growing microgreens, you could harvest a tray or two a day and not have to buy imported greens, especially in the wintertime in Toronto when the quality is quite lacking, in my opinion. So, I would say do what you can, and I would say, you want to set up a system for growing sprouts and or microgreens for the most part. Otherwise, you have some window herbs, that you would use in your cooking, and have fun and experiment, for annual crops outside, when the weather's nice, if you're getting enough sun. I'm not a big fan of like all these trying to grow tomatoes and all these things indoors. I just don't really think you're just gonna get enough yield, and also you're just kind of wasting space. I'd much rather grow some kind of greens, and that's what I'm saying, sprouts or microgreens. So as for composting in your apartment, there are machines that simply just dehydrate and then grind up your food scraps to make not compost, but basically dehydrated food scraps that are powdered. I don't recommend those. I have videos down below. The Vitamix company makes one. There's other companies that make these too, and there's a lot of knockoffs now on Amazon. I'm not a fan of those. You could do a worm bin, which I would recommend, although that can be problematic because if you're not balancing out the moisture and the food scraps and the other kind of bedding material, it's going to start to get nasty and smell. You're definitely not going to do a heat-based regular composting technique. But what I would recommend is actually a new composter that I bought that I need to set up. It's actually called the Renkle, R-E-N-C-L-E. I'll post a video. I have it listed in my video from the Heirloom Expo from 2023, when I basically would take my juice pulp and take it over to the booth, the Renkle booth, and then basically they would compost my juice pulp, and like I'd come back the next day and it was like disappeared. So it basically uses kind of like it uses special bacteria to compost your food scraps very quickly, actually. So that's what I would recommend of the Renkle composter. I hope to set mine up soon and make a video on it. It's just one of my many to-do projects. All right, the next question is from Suburban Garden Permaculture 3117. The science of urine. I'm going to move on to 40 acres soon. I'm thinking I really need to get into the chemistry of urine. If I let pee sit for a day, it starts to smell like ammonia. I assume that's the best time to use it, not fresh. would that be more correct? I want to make a nitrite crystals, ammonium nitrate, trait, all the different valuable components that urine can be composted into. I want to know exactly what is what. All right. So I'm going to say I'm no expert in urine, although I pee on my plants pretty much every single day. When I got the urge to go to the bathroom, I usually don't go in my house unless it's the middle of the night. I'll come out to my garden and like choose a spot and I will urinate like at the base of my plants, not on my plants. Normally I like to do this with fruiting crops and not on my leafy greens, but sometimes I'm like trying to get out the patio door. I'm like, it's coming out, man. So I just stop at the first plant and let her rip, and I try to like not put it all in one place. I try to evenly distribute it so like I don't get all of it in one plant. So, and I found that some plants will like it more than others. So like if I pee on my perennial African chamola kale, like it really doesn't like it. Like, so I really try not to pee on that one, but I'll pee on like other stuff. So I'm definitely no urine expert. I think there's a place called, is it the Richland or something Institute in like Vermont, where they like really know the science of this stuff. I don't. But what I would say is actually you want to kind of like not let your pee sit and volatilize, because when it volatilizes, you lose the beneficial properties of your pee. So the best way is to get it right into the soil immediately. And if you can't do that, then I would say at least minimally. One of the other things I do, which is kind of odd, is that I pee in bottles, and I'll collect the pee, and then as soon as I'm done peeing in the bottle, right, I'm not in my garden, I'm out, just running errands or whatever, I'll cap it off and I'll seal it. So that's very important, to seal your pee so that it doesn't volatilize out, the nitrogen to fertilize your garden, right? And you don't want to necessarily compost your pee, because then you're volatilizing some of the valuable compounds either. So you want to seal it in the bottle, and then you want to take the bottle out. And of course, most people would recommend diluting it. I don't generally dilute it because it's a pain in the butt. But I'll basically water it in, spread it around, and then I'll water in my garden after that. So, I mean, that's what I do. So I would say you don't want to like let it volatilize, because when you're volatilizing it, what you're smelling is it off-gassing what you actually want to put in your garden. So you actually don't want your pee being exposed to air. All right, so a little bit different thought on that one. That's all I could say, because I'm definitely no expert. I still want to have one day, it's my goal to have a video on urine, hopefully maybe even visiting those experts there, interviewing them and discussing more, because I think, we are all wasting our urine. Most people just pee in a toilet, goes down the flusher, and just gets like literally wasted. And I love dogs that pee on everything because they are fertilizing stuff. All right, next question is from why Camus see what you want. All right, something. Anyways, hydroponic outdoors in hot climates because Earth is weak. I don't know if that's a question. I don't know. So I live in one of the hottest climates in the Mojave Desert here. And I mean, look, everything is just thriving. Of course, I choose the appropriate plants to plant in my garden that will do well, that I've learned over the many years. I mean, I don't know. I have like all kinds of things growing. It's just like amazing. I redid my walkways with this playground mulch that's light colored from Grow in Las Vegas. Man, it just upped my game. I actually scooped off all my old wood chips, and actually I'm sifting them out, and all the bottom stuff, which is all the broken down wood chips, I'm actually going to implement and add to my soil blends upcoming. And then the top wood chips I'm actually reusing to actually put in containers as the bottom container, and then I'm going to stack other containers on top of it, or pots to grow in, so I don't have to like bend over. Anyways, I'm reusing all the materials. But yeah, I really love my new walkways that look really nice. Just elevated my garden a whole bunch. But what was I? Oh, so anyways, hydroponics outdoors. So like, hey, if you're going to do hydroponics, like I would say do them indoors. Like I'm a soil guy, right? I'm going to say like soil is best. It is how nature grows food. Yes, okay, maybe in some hot climates, the soil could be fried and terrible. Yes, I did bring in the soil that I grow in here. And hydroponics could work because you're bringing in all the nutrients, and yes, it does save water over regular gardening, unless maybe you're doing a SIP bed, self-irrigated planting bed. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think that the hydroponics could provide the plant everything that nature would, especially all the biologic activity. And of course, most hydroponic nutrients are lacking in different trace minerals. They have like only a handful of trace minerals, where I add things like rock dust and ocean solids to add 70 to 90 different trace minerals into my soil, as well as other, mineral-rich additives such as the soil humates, even the green sand. All right, next question is from Li Dai Ying. How is the biting insect pressure in Puerto Rico? So, I don't know if you mean biting insects for my plants, which actually my plants haven't been hardly damaged too much, which is good. Maybe it's because I'm bringing in all these plants that like aren't that like the Puerto Rican bugs don't know. Maybe we don't have a lot of bugs. I don't know. But the mosquito issue, like actually the mosquito pressure, it's not the best, not the worst. You could see in my videos where I was in Puerto Rico, I was getting bites on my face. I was not using any mosquito protection. However, I did wear like long shirts every single day and hat, but I would still get bit on my face. So that's definitely not fun. That being said, I'm being back in Vegas. I never had mosquito problems in Vegas, and that was one of the reasons why I love Vegas. I'm like, no mosquito problems. I love it. But this year, we've had lots of mosquito problems. The health district has got on the news and saying mosquito problems, and now they're here and all this crap, and it sucks. I got actually 2 mosquito traps, and hopefully they're catching some. And it's been a problem here, actually. So I'm going to say I probably get bit more here than in Puerto Rico, personally. Because in Puerto Rico, I don't know, where I am, it's not really a big issue. If I'm just out in the field, I'm not really getting bit. But if I'm around the house where there's maybe more moisture and stuff, that's when I usually get bit. I don't know. It's just really weird. But I'm not really worried about it. I got to probably look into getting some natural mosquito repellent. If you have any recommendations on what works for you, link down below. Of course, I am planting lots of things like lemongrass. The last question is from Annie Ann. Hello, I'm in Mesa. I really want to learn to grow vegetables in my yard. After one failure after another, I think I should take gardening lessons. I'm glad to see your video. I was wondering if you could teach me how to grow vegetables one-on-one as a teacher. How much does it cost? All right, Annie. So I know people in Mesa and also in Phoenix that do have gardens, right? I think it makes me sad that when I go to Phoenix, I see mostly people having food forests and focusing on fruit trees. Of course, fruit trees are a lot easier to grow, especially in the summer and the heat, than vegetables, the annual vegetables. That being said, I have visited some people that do grow annual vegetables. That being said, I apologize. I can't teach you to be your one-on-one teacher because I don't have the time. I'm so busy doing so many projects. So you can't hire me, and I am not available for any cost. My time is the most valuable thing that we all own, so I want you to value your time. I will be having a retreat center in Puerto Rico and be running some retreats, hopefully maybe even next year, where you can come to the retreat and then I will teach you. So I will be doing that. But otherwise, all my teaching is limited to online, so I'd say you really have to pay attention to my videos. My videos are very nuanced, and I have a lot of little details, and you may just gloss over one little detail. I grow in the desert. We're similar, actually, weather to Mesa, because actually I was talking to some girl in Phoenix the other day, and I'm thinking, oh, it's 10 degrees hotter in Phoenix, and I'm comparing the weather, and it's we're actually that day, Vegas was hotter than Phoenix by 2 degrees. I'm man, we got the same temperatures. People in Phoenix could grow the same thing. So really, I think the most important thing for growing in a hot climate is choosing the right plants, planting them at the right time, right? So follow my Instagram, watch what I do. Usually the videos that I post are usually posted late. So I just filmed videos on water spinach, ong choy. I just filmed a video on planting moringa. And I'm here in late June/July. This is when I'm planting some of these crops when we're at literally the peak of the heat. And I'm still planting crops and they're still surviving. Of course, basil, right? I think planting the right things at the right time, very important. Another thing very important is get an irrigation system. Don't try to just hand water. You're going to hand water, you're not going to make it. Of course, also very important is getting good soil. I think you guys have better soil resources down there in Phoenix. Like visit the Arizona worm farm out there in Phoenix somewheres. Like video down below to them. I'll post a link down below to a video I made at a really cool farm. They grow a lot of vegetables there too. I forget the name. But yeah, even just if you go to the Arizona worm farm, get their worm castings and walk their farm. They grow so many things. They grow so many vegetables in the summertime. Learn from them. I believe they do have classes there. So yeah, I would say just watch my videos and try to implement the techniques. And you know, I'll say do this, this, and this. You got to do this, this, and this. Don't do this and that. And you remember the other one, because like every little component is so important. Of course, also I recommend building soil fertility. That's so important. Don't buy the bag soil from the big box store. That you are destined to fail. And I think, you know, the soil fertility is very important, and foliar feeding, that's another big tip. Like if you just plant stuff and just expect things to grow, yeah, okay, if you're in Northern California, do that. But because of the excessive heat and the weather here, plants are more stressed out, so they need more support. They need more nutrition, and that's why foliar feeding them with different nutrients, links down below to that video, is very beneficial. I learned this from an old timer here because I did not adopt foliar feeding immediately until I visited this guy, Bernie, who taught me that, you know, he hits up his plants with fish emulsion, which I don't recommend. I recommend fish hydrolysate, such as pure protein, like every single week, and he had these huge, beautiful cauliflowers, and everybody else is growing puny ones. And he's like, that's the only thing I do. And then the worst part about that actually is he gave me a big fish emulsion, like in like a milk jug, right? And like what, unbeknownst to me, I like put that on my shelf, didn't use it as fast as I should have. And then when I was actually gone on a trip, it basically exploded because the fish emulsion is so acidic, it dissolved the plastic, and then that stuff got everywhere. And then my house smelled like fish. And actually my roommate, sorry roommate, had to clean it up. And that was terrible. That was the worst thing ever. So I don't recommend fish emulsion. If you do get fish emulsion, get in the proper container. That being said, I recommend fish hydrolysate. It is a powder, and it's not going to blow up in your house. Although your cats or dogs may want to get into it because they'll eat it. All right. So yeah, that's what I'm going to tell you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this month's Q&A, and if you guys enjoyed it a lot like I did, sharing my information with you, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other gardeners you think it could help as well. And of course, if you have your own question, you know, go to my YouTube community tab where you can post your question that may appear in next month's Q&A. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button. Help me out. Get to 1 million subscribers. Click that subscribe button so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes that come out every 5 to 7 days. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. Also, be sure to check my past episodes. The past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 1,700 episodes at this time. Teach you guys all about how to grow your own food at home. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep on growing.